Welcome to the 3 Gig Sports Podcast, where we are never wrong, but sometimes misinformed. This is Danny G sitting alongside Jimmer today. Rio's still homesick, nursing his nursing. We'll keep it PG for this part. Rio, get better. We need you over here, man. We like somebody to pick on with your misinformed takes, man. But
yeah,
just us two again today. We're going to talk about the upcoming weekend, top 25 college football games, NFL games, who to pick, who not to pick, things like that, and even touch on a little bit of baseball. So it'll be a fun episode. Let's get it started. News and notes. Jimmer, what do you got?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and kick her off with Nick Diaz says he didn't want Robbie Lawler fight, has resentment towards MMA. He did say that he's like, I already did beat him once, and I believe the fight should have been Kamaru Usman.
Okay.
Please inform us.
Listen, I love you. I love both of the Diaz brothers. I think they're so fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
They're very, they were born into fighting, essentially. This is what they live for. It's not just a sport or a business for them. But you don't just jump in after this long and fight somebody like Usman. I think he's going to struggle enough against Lawler. Lawler's no slouch, man. Robbie Lawler's a baller in there. But you got to talk a little shit, and that's fine. Either way, it's going to be a great fight. But
he's already asked.
Slow down a little bit.
He's already asked this week, fight week, to go up a weight class in this fight. So I don't know how prepared he is. If you're asking, I don't know. You guys are more the fight take guys than me, but you're asking on fight week if we can go up to middleweight.
Yeah, slow down. Who knows? Robbie probably won't care.
No, I do believe he said he didn't care. He's like, I'm ready to fight.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's a fighter. And both of them are. That's why it's going to be a fun fight,
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. And Diaz will make it entertaining just with his dumb shit, whether he's flipping him off or being cocky or whatever.
Yeah.
It'll be a great fight, but it's been a long time, man. Ring rust is a real thing. Octagon rust, however you want to call it. So We'll see. I'm excited either way, though.
Yep. Gerson Rosas fired as Minnesota Timberwolves president of basketball operations. Wolves promote Sachin Gupta to the position. Now, evidently, what they found was that this Rosas has created a toxic culture. There's all kinds of stuff that started coming out. He was fired because of a culture he created and an inappropriate relationship within the organization. That came out. I don't know if they sent that out right away after Kat put on Twitter like, what the fuck, or something like that, WTF, and didn't know the whole circumstances. Well, if you didn't know, Alex Rodriguez and a couple other guys are buying portions of this, and they're supposed to have like up to 60 or 70% of this by the next 4 years. Every year it goes up at like 10%. They were already looking at this guy to getting rid of him anyways. Is what whatever his name is, Taylor, the owner right now, was saying that they were looking into him anyways before that, and evidently he's having inappropriate relationships and creating a toxic culture. So
yeah, I mean, that's only one part of it. They've got to make a lot of changes if Minnesota's going to be competitive. So
I do know that Rio has tried to have inappropriate relationships on this set with us.
Yeah, we don't have an HR team yet.
Yeah, we're working on that.
We're going to have to get that set up.
That's Mandy's, I think, going to be in the case on that one, and we'll have to make sure we let her know about this inappropriate culture we have going on.
Yeah, we're going to lock Rio down, basically tie him to a chair, make him watch these sexual harassment videos and things like that, because it gets out of control.
Right. Show us on the doll where he touched you. What we do have, we have the Chicago Bears rookie quarterback Justin Fields set for first start. Andy Dalton not expected to play due to knee injury.
Yeah, we figured it was going to happen either way, but now they've got a legitimate, I guess you could call it, reason to start Fields.
Yep.
So at this point, it's his job unless he loses it.
Are they better off now?
Yeah, they're definitely better off.
Okay. Does that take a spike for anyone's fantasy players on offense, especially?
I don't know.
Who does it benefit or hurt the most? There is one for you.
Well, hopefully, the first guy I think of is Allen Robinson, but the play calling hasn't been very good for him. So if that's got to change too. But I think it will ultimately help Cole Kmet, their tight end, who's a stud, just hasn't gotten much production. So if Fields relies on him, like rookies typically do with their tight ends, that could definitely boost him.
Does that help Montgomery? That's got to help Montgomery, right? I mean, you try to help your rookie quarterback out with running the rock and dump offs.
Yeah, is he much of a pass catching running back?
Yeah, he's not. Well, he's not bad. It isn't like
Okay.
he's named for it necessarily, but he's not. He's not a bad pass catching back.
Okay.
So
Then that definitely, especially in PPR leagues, could help for sure there too. Yeah.
you actually had unless you want to wait till after the news, you had an interesting question about fantasy, and me and you kind of split on it.
You got to remind me what we were talking about.
We're talking, buddy of yours messaged you, and whether they.
Yeah, so we can talk about that. So Houston Texans are going to start their rookie quarterback against the Carolina Panthers, which their defense has been hot so far this year. And so Brandon Cooks has been great in fantasy. He's been pretty good for fantasy. So the debate, if Deontay Johnson for the Pittsburgh Steelers is healthy, do you start him or Brandon Cooks? And if he's healthy, I lean towards Johnson because we don't know enough about this rookie in Houston. The unknown is a little worrisome for me, but Jimmer, you had a different take there, sounds like.
I did. So Deontay, pretty damn good receiver, and he's coming up, right? Big Ben has a hurting pectoral. So whether he plays or doesn't play, I'm still sticking with this because you have a hobbled Deontay Johnson, you have a banged up Roethlisberger, or you have a Mason Rudolph, or you have a Dwayne Haskins. Now, I think Haskins' roof is higher now that he's with an organization like that? Yeah, but at the end of the day, he still needs to prove himself. So the one thing that I put into stock on this is, yes, it's a rookie quarterback down there. Yes, it's on the crappy Texans team. But for a rookie to be successful, I'm telling you right now, the best thing you can do, I'm sure this man knows that, is you go to your guy. You go to the stud on offense. You can't go wrong with that. You literally can't get touched up or thrown to your best player. So my belief is that there's going to be plenty of targets thrown Cook's way just to try to help himself out, for Mills to help himself out. So I would take the gamble on Cooks. Yes, Panthers are playing pretty damn good defense, but so is Cincinnati, like you guys are saying too. There isn't like they've been playing horrible defense either. And then Deontay's banged up, and I already alluded to that. So I'd take the shot of, and not to mention, the Texans are going to be playing from behind. They're going to have to be winging the ball around, trying to catch up with the Panthers. So I would actually go in this one. I would go towards Brandon Cooks. Everything being equal, healthy, I go Deontay all day. So,
yeah, really good comparison right there between those two. So,
yeah. So the Pro Football Hall of Fame nominees were announced, and Steve Smith and Andre Johnson headlining the first-year nominees. Are they first ballot Hall of Famers?
I really think Steve Smith was like one of the funnest receivers to watch.
Mm-hmm. And he has the stats to back it up too.
Yeah, if you looked at their career, I think Andre Johnson probably has a better career. I think he was a stud. Are they first year Hall of Famers though? Is your question, and the answer is no.
Good. I was gonna say hopefully we're on the same page on that one.
Yeah.
There's been better wide receivers. And these two guys are studs, mind you. So I'm not trying to downgrade either one of them. Both of them loved watching. Steve Smith is just nasty.
He's mean,
yeah,
bro.
Yeah, dude broke his damn arm on the way to the end zone. You couldn't even tell that he broke his arms. I loved watching both of them. Andre Johnson got kind of hosed. Didn't have like the best quarterbacks or situations with the Texans. But with all that talent and all the stats that they did put up, you have to remember that Chris Carter wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer.
That's exactly where I was going, naturally. And Chris Carter's one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah.
So.
And even those guys, Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce, I mean, maybe I'd even put them, statistically, they were above them, you know. At least Isaac Bruce was. There's plenty of wide receivers that were not first ballot. So are these guys that? Not quite. They should be in the following year. 2-3 years. They kept Carter waiting way too long, but
yeah, definitely agree. They'll get to the Hall of Fame, but not this year.
Just throw a little baseball news kind of together in this one. Tampa Bay Rays clinch a playoff spot.
There we go.
And Fernando Tatis hits 40th homer as MVP race heats up. That's about all the Padres are battling for right now. I don't think Machado is, but
right.
I don't think he's on board with his MVP vote to Toddy.
No.
Golden State owner Joe Jacob fined $50,000 for violating anti-tampering rule with comments regarding Ben Simmons. And if you didn't see that, the comments were basically saying that they're not in the market for Ben Simmons.
Yeah, this was the weirdest one because he literally said Ben Simmons wouldn't be a good fit with what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
But that was tampering.
Yeah, I don't know what that. When I seen it, I was like, okay. And I'm not a Golden State guy by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that was a little ridiculous.
100%. I've seen worse with no repercussions. So
yeah,
you know,
or the legal tampering period.
Right.
Lions exploring trade options involving linebacker Jamie Collins.
Okay. I don't know why you would do that, but
they said they want to get younger on their roster. So in turn, that tells me that they want minimal to no chance of winning a game this year. For what purpose?
Right.
A higher draft pick.
Yeah.
So this is what happens, ladies and gentlemen. If you are a Detroit fan, this is not going to be the last talk or eventual trade of players off your team. That being said, Bradley Chubb likely out 6 to 8 weeks after having successful ankle surgery. You know which Chubb that one is?
Yeah, it was so weird. I for some reason I remember seeing. I think I was at the gym and I saw something scroll across that said Chubb was out 6 to 8 weeks, and it sucks because I love watching him play, but I also play against him in fantasy. So I was like, all right, I got a leg up. And then I'm looking for it this morning to talk about it, and I'm like, why can't I find his injury? What the hell? It talks about his injury from 2020, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it's naturally different Chubb.
Different Chubb.
That sucks.
NFL keeping taunting rules despite criticism, and they're catching a lot of it.
The NFL is funny. I think they do a lot of things, even if it looks bad, because they get talked about more. You know what I mean? Even though they're dumb rules and it just doesn't. Mm-hmm. You know the difference between taunting and just being excited about making a play. And they're starting to call those just being excited and getting pumped up because they made a play. I think part of it's probably a money deal. They're getting talked about more, even though it's for a shitty reason. But whatever. We'll see if they keep it.
All news is good news. You know, when you're getting talked about, doesn't need to be a popular opinion or a great thing or a bad thing, just anything. You need to keep your name or whatever up in the media.
Jerry Jones is the king of that, isn't he?
Yeah. Him, captain of the irrelevant team for the last 20 years or whatever.
But they always get talked about.
They do.
Always.
Tua has been ruled out for Week 3 versus the Raiders due to fractured ribs. Jacoby Brissett to start. Do they get skunked again?
Man, pretty close to skunk. That Raiders defense looked fine the first couple games. And I don't – normally if I looked at this, even with a backup quarterback, I'd be like, well, this will be a close game. You know, I don't know, 17-14, whatever. But for some reason, I think the Raiders are just going to rock. They've been weird this year. I don't even know how to explain it, but they've been good. So,
Yep. That's all I have for right here. Kind of a shorter weekend news. Usually we're a few. The last couple times we went a few days behind, so we have a boatload.
Yeah, staying ahead of things today.
Yep.
Good deal. Well, we can transition since I commented on the news stuff that you brought up, Jimmer. Do you want to go ahead and start and kind of explain some of your upset picks that you've got going on here NCAA wise?
Well, so go ahead and rip off a couple of them here. So I'm going to go with my Stone Cold Locks first. Just my
Stone Cold Locks.
Stone Cold.
What do you got? So basically, if you're listening, his Stone Cold Locks have been pretty solid this year. So if you're debating on throwing money on some of these games, listen up. Jimmer's confident here. So what do you got?
I have the Panthers minus 7.5 at the Texans. To me, this is all day. Rookie quarterback, third rounder coming in. Team was already on, like we've been talking about, is in rough shape. We were trying to find wins when we were predicting them. So this is all day. Panthers are on fire. I don't think that slows down. That defense is clicking. Darnold is getting better and better every week. It's weird after you don't have a Jets jersey on what can happen. Then I roll right into, I have the Titans minus 5 at home against the Colts. Colts with Wentz double ankle sprain. Usually I tend to stay away from division games, rivalry games, but this one I don't know. I don't know how Titans are jacked. They came back in Seattle with a huge game, and I just don't think the Colts have enough. And then the final one for the NFL one is I have the Ravens minus 7.5 at the Lions. I don't know how this is 7.5. I don't know how this isn't double digits. There must be something that maybe there's something I don't know. Maybe there's an injury I don't know about, but those Ravens look pretty damn good, and they beat a way, way better team in the Chiefs than what the Lions are rolling with. So that's what I have for Stone Cold Locks. You got anything you got for?
Yeah, I'll add
your slam dunk.
Yeah, I think the slam dunk. You mentioned a couple. The Panthers, that's an easy one. The Titans was a great pick. We obviously talked about the Raiders. We're both in agreement there. I think they thump the Dolphins. The only other one that I would add confidently here is Cardinals over Jags. So Cardinals, I think they're minus. So depending on where you look, 7.5, 8 over the Jags. I don't see any reason they don't beat them by 20, but I would take that as a stone cold lock. They're definitely going to run.
Okay, all right. That what'd you say? It was 7.5, 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some weird stuff going on. Like the Cardinals should be. Yep. They're looking pretty damn good. That defense. In fact, I picked the Cardinals defense up on. I'm gonna give you a freebie right now. If your waiver wire probably has already went through, but if they're still out there, grab Cardinals defense this week if you need a streamer.
Definitely.
That's pretty damn simple. But so I'm gonna go ahead and roll with some of my upset picks.
Here we go.
Now I'm gonna be honest with you. I have some low hanging fruit on here. They're either that or there's some information I do not know. Okay. We'll go ahead and start with Bucks at Rams. I have the Rams plus 1.5. This is at the Rams. So it's a little, yes, I understand the Bucks are damn good. Super Bowl champions are looking damn good out in the field, but so are the Rams. And the Rams are only getting better every week, too, as Stafford gets this offense down and everything starts clicking. I don't see the Buccaneers having quite enough. They're going to have, when you have the defense that the Rams do have, they have the cover corner, so they're going to take out, I don't know where Jalen Ramsey's going to play necessarily. AB, I didn't put that in the notes. I did see COVID, he might not be able to even play. So then you put him on Chris Godwin or Mike Evans, I guess, pick your poison on that one, but I think they'll be just fine. I mean, that offensive line is better play damn good football, but so I like the Rams plus 1.5 in that. I like Notre Dame. I know usually it sounds like I'm beating up on them. I actually like Notre Dame plus 6.5 at Whiskey. This one I'm confused by. Wisconsin has not been looking good this year. And Notre Dame, yes, I'm not saying they've been looking real good, but they've been winning. And they took care of business against Purdue last week. So this one I'm a little confused by. I have the Bengals plus 3 at the Steelers. I kind of had this one picked out earlier in the year. We were talking AFC predictions, and I thought Cincinnati, could do something silly, or at least come up to the number 3 spot in that tough division, because I had the Steelers falling down to last place in the AFC North. So I like this one. They have a couple banged up players going on in Steelerland. TJ Watt. You have Big Ben with whatever's going on with his pectoral, whether he's going to play or not. Deontay's banged up. The offensive line is, last time I checked, still horrible. So the Bengals are still relatively healthy, and I think they'll be just fine. So, and then my last one, and now when I put this one out here, this one may get me drug tested. This is going to be silly. Rutgers plus 20.5 at Michigan. Rutgers still not getting much love. Greg Schiano plays his teams play pretty damn good defense. I think they keep it close, and then when it just seems like when the game is close, Jim Harbaugh has not been the same. It's almost like the pressure gets to him when it comes to, ever since he's been with the Michigan Wolverines. So I don't know, kind of have a little bit of a hard on for Rutgers. I'm a believer. They've won me plenty of money, so I'm swinging. I definitely believe they're covering that, so that's without a doubt. But I'm gonna go ahead with the upset victory.
Right on. That is out there. I don't know about drug tests. I tell you what, if they come through for you, there might not be a random USADA test, so you might be okay. I
do have a couple other ones that I like. For anyone.
So potential upsets, you might say?
Oh no, just bets in general that I like.
Okay.
That I would kind of throw up in there. I do like, where are we at? I do like Alabama to win against Southern Miss. It's at Alabama, and I like them to cover 45.5. It's a big ass number. I understand that.
That is a big number.
I'm still liking it. And there's old Jiminy over there chatting away. I like West Virginia to cover 17.5.
Yeah, I actually like West Virginia to not only cover, I think they'll end up beating Oklahoma. Yeah, Oklahoma hasn't impressed me at all this year. The final score might be a little deceiving, and it looked like they beat up Nebraska, but they did not beat up Nebraska. West Virginia's coming off a really good win over Virginia Tech, right? So they're kind of riding that high. They'll definitely cover. They're actually one of my upset picks for the week, so that's a good call. Yeah.
Okay, like it. Except for, so you're saying Nebraska isn't good?
Yes.
Oh, what?
Yes.
Where would you get that?
Breaking news,
Is that
everybody.
breaking news?
There's 2 big pieces of breaking news this week. Deshaun Watson not starting, healthy scratch, in case you didn't know, and Nebraska football is not good.
I do like Tennessee to cover 18.5 at Florida.
Really?
I do.
Okay.
Just to cover. It could be the game.
You think it's like a 10-point game or something?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Okay.
I'm thinking it'll be double digits, so I can see anywhere between 10 and 17, somewhere in that ballpark. But 18.5, I think that's where it tips me over that edge. 2 touchdowns and a field goal. I could see that as a loss, but just not seeing. I don't know. I'm not seeing 20 in that one.
Is that at Florida or is that in Tennessee?
That's at Florida.
All right, so I'm in. Let's do this right now.
Do what?
I'll take that bet.
You think you think?
I think Florida's not only they're going to cover easily. They just came off that tough game against Bama. Now they're going to go against. Don't get me wrong, Tennessee's a good college team, but it's like varsity versus JV when you talk about Bama versus Tennessee. I think Florida is going to thump them. Are you confident enough to have a warm whiskey wager, sir?
Oh, I'm undefeated in these so far. This one was kind of, I'm going to go ahead and shake her out a little bit here. I feel that confident. You know what? I don't feel that confident, but I am going to. My nuts are big. I am not afraid.
Is that why the wheelbarrow's in here?
Yeah, exactly.
Damn. Okay.
I can't find boxers big enough. The nuts too big. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. I'll throw it on there. Yep.
Warm whiskey wager.
Yep.
Let's go.
Let's go ahead and throw it on that one.
Okay.
I do have Auburn to cover. That's a big boy, but they're playing pissed.
Yep.
After like you stated in the last episode, they kind of got hosed a little bit with a targeting penalty and kind of deflated them a little bit, and they lost a player. But I had them covering 27.5 against Georgia State. Now, Georgia State isn't exactly horrible usually. I'd have to look up what theirs is. Now, I should say I always mix the two up. There's like Georgia Southern and there's Georgia State. But I think Auburn rules. Comes out pissed. Like right out of the gate, you're going to see in the first quarter it'll be like 20-0 or something. It's going to be something stupid.
Yeah, see, that's exactly why I think Florida is going to roll in Tennessee. Same idea anyway. That's my same thought process. Yeah, I get it.
So I'm dumbfounded by this. Now, I'm a Clemson guy. I really am, but they are 9.5-point favorites at North Carolina State. Does FanDuel, by the way, I grab all my stuff off FanDuel. That's where I go do my betting at. So, does FanDuel know that Clemson only dropped 14 altogether last week? They're not looking like the team that they should be.
They're not. Not at all.
I know they've lost a lot of talent through draft and all that, but it just I don't know. I'm actually leaning towards North Carolina State in that plus 9.5. No love. I do have, this Texas Tech one. I like Texas to hit that 7.5. Texas Tech isn't really good this year, and Texas is still building back up, so they'll come out with some vengeance. And for whatever reason, you don't like Boston College. I heard you disrespecting them off the air a little bit when we were talking about who plays who, and
yeah.
I think they cover the 1.5 at home against Missouri. But that's what I got. Do you got any other ones you want to go ahead and throw up in there?
Yeah, definitely. So one stone cold lock that I have is actually Michigan State over that wonderful Nebraska team we just talked about. So depending on where you look, Michigan State -5, 5.5. Their running back is a stud. I don't know if you guys pay attention to this or not, but he leads the entire NCAA in rushing yards. He's got 493 rushing yards already, 5 touchdowns on the ground, 1 receiving touchdown, and he balled out against Miami. He had 172 rushing yards against Miami. Now they're going against a Nebraska team who is not even in the same breath of Miami. Don't get me wrong, Miami's not going to be great this year because of that Alabama loss. We talked about that earlier in our
go ahead and
podcast.
slide it in there because you were correct. One hell of a stat.
Yeah.
Could you refresh us on that a little bit?
Yeah. So basically, anytime Alabama plays an ACC team on neutral ground, they thump them by an average of almost 30 points a game. And when that happens, that team loses at least 5 games that season. Miami's already lost, 2? So they'll hit that number again. But they're not a bad team. So Michigan State beat up Miami. They're going to play Nebraska. They're going to cover. They're going to beat up Nebraska by probably double digits or more. Well, I shouldn't say more. Double digits. It's at least 10 points. And yeah, so that's a lock. Throw your money on that. Then when we talk about upset picks, I told you West Virginia over Oklahoma. I think they cover at least, but I actually think they'll pull that out against Oklahoma. But the other one, I don't know if
do we have random drug tests that they're gonna pull it out?
Dude, Nebraska could have last weekend, so relax. Oklahoma has not looked good.
Down a little bit there. I think they were overlooking Nebraska in that game. That's all they were doing. And like we said, I think there's a little bit of a rivalry from before when they were in the Big 12 together.
We'll see.
We'll
see. But I think West Virginia does. I think Oklahoma just hasn't looked like the Oklahoma of old. They're not dropping 50 points a game like we're used to. Just watch what happens, man.
Hey, I don't know which one's crazier though. I'll give you that. I don't know if West Virginia plus 17.5 is over Oklahoma at Oklahoma, right?
At Oklahoma, yeah.
Is any crazier than me saying Rutgers plus 20.5 at Michigan? So
yeah.
We're swinging some balls out here.
We're swinging some balls. The other one, I'm going to keep riding this train. Arkansas number 16 over number 7 Texas A&M. So,
hey, real quick, don't say riding this train. You're riding that hog, baby.
Riding that hog.
Riding that hog.
Razorbacks are going to come through. A&M right now is favored by 5.5, 6, depending on where you're looking. I think Arkansas keeps that running game going, man. They look so good on the ground. They're going to come through against Texas A&M. So definitely take a look at that. The one other thing for you Iowa State fans out there is don't overlook this game this weekend at Baylor. Baylor is favored by 7 right now. It is in Baylor. Baylor scores a lot of points. They're a fun team to watch. I think they could come through and end up potentially beating Iowa State. So look out for that too. I'm not locking that in. I'm not confident enough to say it's going to happen.
You mean they're getting 7?
Attention. Yeah, they're getting 7. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
You said favored by 7.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
No big deal.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and transition into, let's look at some of these top 25 games this week. And we were talking a little off air, like, the top 6 or 7 teams, like where we could see their first losses coming from. And for instance, we have here coming up, we have Iowa they have Colorado State this week, and they should win that. But after that, they have, wasn't it Maryland?
Yeah, so they've got Maryland, followed by Penn State, Purdue, and Wisconsin.
So, unfortunately, I'm a Hawkeyes fan. I hope they don't do this. That Maryland game is a trap game. Maryland's a good defensive or a good offensive team. It's a good all-around team led by Tua's younger brother.
Yep.
And then the week right at, the game after that is Penn State. Now that is at Iowa, where the time hasn't been set, but whenever it's a big time game like that, I would almost bet my bottom dollar that that's going to be a night game. So they're going to be playing up. Penn State's ranked pretty damn high. So we were chatting about that. I was like, I could see Iowa losing that Maryland game. I really could. And then the top 2, Alabama and Georgia. We already talked about this many times. I think they're going to end up splitting this. And and I'm a Roll Tide guy. This hurts to say this, but I could see Georgia pulling off some silly, stupid shit and actually getting both of them, getting both the victories.
Well, so the only way they would split it is
playing in the
playoff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just curious. Say they split it. I'm assuming you think Bama wins first game. Then what happens in the playoffs? Do you think Georgia could beat them there?
I'm actually starting to lean towards Georgia could upset Alabama in the regular season.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean, obviously, that Alabama isn't in the playoffs at that point.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, they're in. Unless they lose 2 games somehow.
Hold on. We need to correct ourselves. They don't even play each other.
No, so it'd be the SEC championship.
It'd be the SEC championship.
Yeah, and then the playoff. That's
Okay.
that's what I was referring to. Right.
Okay. So we're assuming that they're both going to make it.
Yeah.
We're assuming Georgia doesn't that Georgia beats out Florida, right?
Yeah. And, you know, based on the way Florida played Bama, that's actually a good conversation to have, right? That could end up being a better game. But let me look. Are they playing in Georgia? No, they play at Florida too. So, okay. That could make things really interesting up there. Yeah.
That could be interesting. So, looking at Alabama's schedule, they have a slapdick this weekend, but then they have Ole Miss, Texas A&M. Those are back to back. Ole Miss is at Bama. Texas A&M is at Texas A&M. I don't think they lose either one of those games. So, looking at their regular season schedule, I'm going to go ahead and call it out there. Like I said, I'm a Roll Tide guy. But I think it could be a very interesting Iron Bowl.
Auburn
at the end of the season.
I was going to bring up the same thing. Yep. Those games are always way tighter than they should be,
I was
right?
going to say they also have your Rolling Hogs the game before that one.
Yeah, if they could keep it going. I don't know if Arkansas has the defense to keep up necessarily, but you're right. That could be an interesting game.
So, it's not the easiest of roads for Bama like we're used to, and I think they've shown a few weaknesses this year. And we'll see how it breaks out, but I don't see Alabama going undefeated this year. So if they're going to win a Natty championship this year, it's not going to be with an undefeated record.
Yeah. So we we touched on Georgia. I do want to talk about Oregon. They are. We had a bet on this that they make it to the college football playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And listen to their schedule the rest of the season, man. So they play Arizona this weekend coming up, Stanford, Cal, UCLA.
Hold on, where are you going there? You've been dick riding UCLA though too.
Yeah. So hold
that's
on.
at UCLA.
Right. That's where I'm getting.
Okay.
Then it's Colorado, Washington. Like nobody's even ranked the rest of the season that they play besides that UCLA game. I think Oregon's more talented than UCLA, and I don't think this is quite the year for UCLA. I think they end up with 2 losses, and I think that's one of them against Oregon. I'm sticking firm with that. They're going to make it to the college football playoffs. I have not even looked at the schedule till now. They're a really good team, and now with the schedule, I'm even more firm.
That gets you a little more excited.
Yeah.
You think you're going to be whiskey free on that one?
On that one, yeah.
Well, good, because you're going to get a belly full after this last bet we just made. So, and
Here
as
we
soon as
go.
Rio gets back, I think you have 2 coming your way anyway. So.
Yeah. We'll see.
By the way, did you let your wife know that you're going to come home bombed?
Listen, she doesn't need to know what she doesn't need to know. Okay?
Right.
She'll figure it out.
Yep. So actually, the more I look at it too, escaping with a victory against Fresno State, and then beating Ohio State at Ohio State. We're by far their toughest games on the rest of the schedule.
Yep.
Maybe. But that's still at home. I was going to say maybe Colorado after they get emotionally involved with UCLA. That's a game right after. Colorado plays pretty tough too. But yeah, I'm not feeling the most warm and cozy about that bet. My belly will get warm with some whiskey, I think. There's a high possibility of it. So was it just for them to make the college football playoff?
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm holding out hope.
Then, I mean, we talked about A&M a little bit. They've got some tough games coming up. They've got to play Auburn, yeah. They've obviously got to play Bama, Arkansas this weekend. They'll end up with a few dings on their record. But I think the interesting conversation that you brought up a little bit ago, Jimmer, is around Cincinnati.
Yeah.
The number 8 team, 3-0. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so we were looking at this and see if I can bring them up. And they have Notre Dame on the 2nd of October. So they have this week off. And they have Notre Dame. Now, if they beat Notre Dame, I'm not even talking about they don't need to beat them up. They just need to win. This is also at Notre Dame, too.
Yep.
If they do that, and we look at this schedule, and there's a couple decent teams in there, but there's nothing that scares you the way Cincinnati's been balling. So after that, they have Temple, UCF, Navy, Tulane, Tulsa, USF, SMU, and ECU. SMU's undefeated so far. They're 3-0. Tulane, I do believe, wasn't that was Notre Dame, right? Tulane played tough.
Yeah, I think it was Notre Dame or Oklahoma. I think it was Notre Dame. Yeah.
I guess I could look at that. So the conversation then became, when we were talking about it, was, it was Oklahoma. You're right. They only lost by 5 to Oklahoma.
Yeah, and that goes back to my Oklahoma thing.
You're not 100% wrong, because Tulane got rolled up this last weekend by Ole Miss, 61-21. So, yeah, we'll see. Oklahoma will be just fine. But that being said, is there a legitimate shot of Cincinnati making it to the college football playoff? If they beat Notre Dame and then they roll, and let's say they beat up every team they play. And what I'm talking about beat up is at least bare minimum double digits against the quote-unquote better teams, and then big blowouts against the rest. Do they have a legit shot?
Possibly. It would take a lot. It would at least take one of those losses from basically they need help from the teams that are above them, right? A&M has a couple losses they're probably going to face. Penn State has at least one or two. Oklahoma, I think they'll lose a couple games. They have to not only blow everybody out that they're playing, but they also need a lot of help from up top, whether it's they lose a game or two and then there's some close ones that should have been close, things like that. It's not. I wouldn't bet on it. It's not likely, but I think they have a shot. I think there's a path. It's just not an easy one.
I think this builds into another conversation that is already a hot topic, right? The 6-team playoff. I mean, they've had it all the way up to 12-team and 10-team. First off, I'm anti all that. 6-team, yes, because I think you have teams like this that deserve a shot. They play their schedule. They still put it in Power 5 teams. I mean, they have Indiana, which may not be the sexiest team, but it's still Power 5 and was a pretty good team last year too. And they have Notre Dame also, and both of those games were on the road, by the way. So this Notre Dame game is going to be on the road. Indiana was at Indiana. And, I think, so the discussion should be, do you believe there should be a playoff expansion?
Yeah, I think there should be. I think if you expand it, it adds, because I think football teams and just college teams in general are more balanced than they've ever been, even though we have these Alabamas and things that are always going to be head and shoulders above. But I think what it does is it gives more of an opportunity for somebody to get hot and then potentially use that momentum and beat a team like an Alabama or something like that. I think expanding it definitely makes sense. There's always arguments every year, right? So you can never make it big enough. But I think if you got somewhere closer to 6, 8 might be a stretch, but I think 6 might be the number.
I think 6 is the number. I think you get anything more than that, you're watering it down. I always feel like there's always 2 teams that kind of get hosed out of that you can make a legit argument that should be in the 4, right? Now, that being said, I think if you go to 6, let's say they increase it to 6, I think they need to first off make a rule that you can't have more than 2 participants in one conference then. You know what I mean? Because then we're going to get some dumb shit where they're going to, 6 teams. Now we can put 3 SEC teams up in there.
So you can. So your thought is you can't have more than 1?
No, more than 2.
More than 2.
More than 2.
Okay. I'd have to think about it, but right off the top, I think 2 makes sense. Because I think it's always the SEC, right? It's never Big Ten. It's never the Pac-12. It's the SEC. And I think usually there's at least one that's going to be in the top 4.
Well,
But anytime you get beyond 2, they're competitive with every other conference. They're not necessarily head and shoulders.
So
right?
I'm going to rewind you a little bit there because the Big Ten can put in 2. And where that scenario lies is if Ohio State loses, and let's say it loses the championship game. I think this happened, actually. So they lose the Big Ten championship game. But they rolled all the way up to that point. They played against someone that was hot. And so they're going to let the Big Ten champion in. I mean, how can you not? It's probably the second best conference in the Power 5. So, but they're not. But yeah, Power 6. But how do you? They're not going to leave Ohio State out, right? Even with one loss, so they're going to put them in. So they have to let. So I'm saying that Big Ten would have a shot at 2.
Not at.
But SEC is the one that they would seriously consider, especially when you get Texas and Oklahoma over there too.
That's more of my point, right? It's not
seriously consider.
It's not that like the Big Ten couldn't get 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's that the odds are, if it was Big Ten versus SEC, the SEC's going to get the 2.
Yep.
Big Ten, maybe, but it would have to be like a serious argument. In the SEC, you could just be like, oh, that's Alabama. And you know what I mean? That's more of my point. You're right. You could do it, but I don't see it happening very likely anyway.
But I don't want. You know what? The expansion to 6 for me takes care of 2 things. First off, it takes care of letting a team like a Cincinnati in. Or like Boise State in the past. TCU back when they were really good. But they were playing out of the Mountain West. And the point is that it should benefit them. Like, all right, this is for you to a certain extent. We're going to let one of you in because you were undefeated. You played your schedule. Let's go ahead and see how you swing with the big boys. You know? And then, you throw the other one the other way, and it's going to be like, unfortunately, it'll be like Notre Dame with like 3 losses. For whatever reason, Notre Dame, I think Chris has alluded to this too. Rio, he's alluded to this. He's like Texas, Notre Dame, USC. For whatever goddamn reason, they need like, even at the end of the season, and they have 5 losses or 4 losses, they're still in the top 25.
Yep.
It's like they can't make a list without them in it.
I definitely agree. The one thing I will say about that is I think right now Notre Dame's not necessarily overranked. This is like one of those weird situations. Yep. Usually if Notre Dame was 3-0, they'd be a top 4 team no matter what.
Yep, they're actually being a little realistic with it because they've been eking out these wins. They're still winning, but they have dropped them down. They're like, hold on, you're not taking care of business like you should, and they have a hard-ass schedule. I mean, that's one thing you have to have respect for when it comes to Notre Dame, okay? And that's the thing that comes with being an independent is they do not have a weak schedule. Every year they are playing top-notch quality opponents. I mean, when Toledo is one of your weaker ones, that schedule. So they have like let's for instance, I'll run down theirs quick. Florida State, Toledo, Purdue, Wisconsin, Cincinnati, Virginia Tech, USC, UNC, Navy, Virginia, Georgia Tech, and Stanford.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this right now, I don't know, half of those teams aren't ranked. But when the schedule was set up, Florida State, I believe, was ranked. Purdue was ranked. Virginia Tech, like it was set up. Like they're not bad teams.
Yep.
They've just had some losses so far. So,
but still, there's not really a bottom feeder.
Agreed.
That is my point more than anything. It's like it isn't like Iowa, for instance, who just took on Kent State last weekend. That like their slapdick is Toledo. It's I mean,
it's gotta be.
That's probably the only one, and that's not a bad one. Toledo is traditionally pretty damn good, actually, for their conference.
Yeah, they're solid.
So, they make it through this. So, like if they end the season with like 1 or 2 losses, I at least see the debate there because even in the SEC, I'm the first one to sit here and tell you that They'll sit here and battle it. Their top tier is their top tier. They are the top dogs of the nation. But their middle of the pack to bottom is not much different than everybody else's, and everyone always hypes it up. The SEC, SEC, SEC. Go look at the bowl games. Go look at the bowl game records.
Yep.
Like when they've faced off against these other conferences, their middle of the pack to bottom is the same as everybody else's. It really is. And just because you have SEC behind it, everyone gets all mighty fearful or talking and, oh, there's no way, blah, blah, blah. You know what? Actually, Notre Dame plays a way better schedule than even an SEC team.
Yeah. SEC teams like to play those bottom feeders, as you said, so they can get some momentum, kind of practice games.
Yeah, but even my team, even Roll Tide, they do too. I mean, yes, they have no problem rolling out a big time one. You know, they'll go to someone else's. They'll go to a neutral site. They'll go play a big time game. You know,
and you know you can't argue that
Miami
either.
was one of them too, but they also have a couple of those ones that their third team. They're basically their third team gets off the bus and they go play it.
Right.
You know, like, hey, this is your guys' time to shine. Go ahead and get you something. You're still going to put up 45, 50 points.
Yeah, and you can't argue that either. I think that's a cool thing that they do. It just sucks for the record simply because those smaller teams get a shitload of money when a team like Bama comes in and beats them 60-0 or whatever. So,
unless you're Appalachian State beating up when they were FCS and they beat up the Wolverines.
Yeah.
Remember that? That was like one of the bigger ones that stuck in my head. I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Yep.
Yeah, and they got to go cash that check too.
That's right. Best of both worlds, baby.
Yeah, so that's kind of where, you know, I like the 16 playoff. I think they do need to expand to that. Anything more than that is getting ridiculous, and you're watering down the championship to me.
You good with college football? I did have one other thing I wanted to bring up that we haven't talked about.
Yep.
Did you see that the NBA is looking to implement a mid-season tournament?
Yeah.
So they said they won't add to games of the season, still be 82, right? But they want to add a tournament in the middle of the season. I don't know why, but I'm not a fan myself.
Not at all. You already have problems with players playing 82 games, right? You already do. So you're going to add a tournament in there so you can like try to get all the players on one stage and get an extra bang for your buck or something somewhere for a tournament that doesn't mean anything, right? They're all supposedly positioning and jockeying and fighting to win a championship. Not a mid-season goddamn tournament. And then if all those boys actually show up and actually play in that tournament, you know how offended and you know how pissed off I'll be?
Yeah, it's funny. That's the first thing I thought about, too. The reason, to me, it seems like they want to do that is get rid of that load management and have the players play.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's just going to be a watered-down tournament because they're still not going to play.
You know what?
You know
how you solve that, right? So I'm being dead serious.
Here we go.
They keep giving these guys guaranteed contracts, right? And I'm all right with that. I'm not against that because you're making teams and owners billions of dollars, right?
Yep.
Same thing with the NFL. Same thing with not every sport, but you know what I'm getting at. They sit out a game, you don't get paid. Just plain and simple. And I understand that doesn't sound quite right because I was going to make the analogy like if I don't go to work, I don't get paid. Well, I have personal days, so yes, I'll get paid, but it's a hell of a lot smaller scale. You're sitting out for load management. You're sitting out for whatever. You're not sitting out because you're sick or I don't know. You know what? I was not a Kobe guy for most of his career. I gained the mass amount of appreciation for that man the last 2 years he was around. And especially that last season. I'm like, God, a legend's walking away. You don't realize something that you got to watch is walking away until it's too late, right? So I got to watch that ridiculous game, his last game where he went over 60 and shot his million shots and all that. And I was okay with that. I used to hate it, but I loved watching him launch up every single one of that game. And then you find out more and more about this guy. That the dude was basically being bandaged up, iced up, every kind of probably pain medication that you possibly could because he couldn't walk to get out there and try to play every fucking minute of every game.
Yep.
And when asked, why are you doing this? His wife would even ask him, like, you need to stop. Why are you doing that? You, like, take a little bit of time. Because some family or some kid or some dad bringing their son or daughter to the game
It's coming to see me.
Came to see me, and they saved up for this. They don't have this all the time. So it's my job to put on a show, to give them the best that I can possibly give. And God, that gives me chills even saying that, because that shit isn't around anymore.
Yeah, I think the mentality is changing. So he got his money. He did it for, like, and he's like, this is my job. This is what I'm doing. I think more now what we're seeing with the players is it's more about the money, less about the passion for the game and the fact that it's a business and that you have a job to do. So
A business and a brand to yourself.
in a brand, that's huge too, especially with social media. And that.
I can't. If I get banged up, I'm not going to be around to get the no. Taking it for granted, and you're showing people the wrong way. I'm a huge, and so are you, huge LeBron fans.
Yep.
Always have been since he came out. I was always looking for that player, right? I was looking for that one player to latch onto because I was a huge Jordan fan. And there's nothing really in between. Like I told you, I wasn't a Kobe guy at that time. So I attached LeBron right away. And the dude has been phenomenal. We talked about it, 4 years or
5 years, yeah.
Not quite on that. Like, he's still my guy. He's still one of my favorite players. But the flopping, the over-dramatic shit, the tweets of, like, I'm like, dude, just play ball. I want you to show my kids who are huge fans of yours to see you just even when you do take a legitimate shot to the face, to take that shit like a man. Get up and get going. I understand today's NBA, and that's what it is. I do get that. But come on, man. And then you're the president of what about the load management?
I don't know. Kawhi might be the president of that.
Oh, right, he is. No, I just mean, like, he kind of starting a little bit, and he doesn't go extreme. Like, we need to go back and look at this stuff. If you actually go back and look at the games that he plays, he missed very few games. Yep. He really did. He missed, like, if there's an 82 game regular season, he plays 78. He'd still play. It's just he would do it in a different way, just taking plays off and shit like that, and kind of started up that way. But it's a new age basketball. It's like, good God, just get out there and play, put your heart into it, and all the rest of that shit, the financials, take care of themselves.
Yeah, exactly. You don't put that first. Right. That's supposed to be a byproduct, right? Right. You doing that work, putting in that work. So, I don't know. And also, this whole load management thing hasn't necessarily been helping players that do the load management. Kawhi being the biggest example, right? Mm-hmm. He's always taking games off.
Yep.
Now, he's a great player, but he takes a lot of games off. But then come postseason, something still happens, and he's still not out there. So that's not helping, no matter how you look at it. He's one example, but I think it's a big example.
It is. And I don't know. Like I don't want to give a bad assessment of watching him. Because technically, I mean, he won a championship up in Toronto.
And he was a big reason they won it, too.
And he was a huge reason for that. In fact, the game winner was the first round, second round of the playoffs. That it's an ugly-ass shot. It dribbled around that rim forever, and then doom.
Yeah, what was that, 4 bounces?
Yeah.
And then in, yeah.
And then in. But they did. They did exactly that, and they won. Now, should they have won? We go back to that a little bit. Golden State was missing almost every one of their starters in the finals.
Yeah, and they forced Durant to play, basically. Not directly, but he was basically forced to play.
He was kind of getting forced to.
Yep.
And a championship is still a championship. I'm not downgrading a championship. I'm really not, because at the end of the day, all those guys get paid, right? And everyone deals with injury. So then obviously Kawhi's used to fake injuries, whatever. So a championship's still a championship. But at the end of the day, is that really a guy? Even then, when he went up there, is Kawhi a guy that has ever cracked your mind were like, God, I would not mind starting a franchise with that player. Even before his Clippers missed 30 games a season shit. I'm talking about even before that. Did he actually ever cross your mind as like, hey, yeah, he's a good, great two-way player, but he's never crossed my mind like, yeah, this is the guy I want to build around.
Yeah, I don't even know if he's a great two-way player anymore. He has his spots, but he's not consistent anymore. He's not what he was with San Antonio. Just putting that out there. But he also is missing a lot of key factors if you want to start a franchise. He needs to be a team player. He is definitely not that.
Definitely not that.
You know what I mean? You want to look for the guys that are going to get everybody involved and, kind of create that chemistry, and he does his thing. While he does it well, in my opinion, I think I could pick 10 guys I'd rather start a franchise with before him, maybe more.
Yeah.
But
there's two, right? There's two on a few teams alone. The Nuggets, I'd take either one of those guys over him. I'd take Jamal Murray over him.
Yep.
Jamal Murray was ridiculously good in the bubble. And I think that's all they were missing this year, to actually compete in the Western Conference. You can't just have Nikola Jokic.
I think the best comparison would be, would you rather start a franchise with Kawhi Leonard or Mr. Kyrie Irving?
Oh man, could I sell my team?
Right.
Could I sell my team?
I think that's a really good comparison.
Kyrie, yeah, and they're in the same. You are right. They're in the same boat. Kyrie, no. Oh my God, I would have to go Kawhi just by default.
Yeah.
Kyrie's a head case. Can't deal with the guy. Gets too much notoriety for. First off, the dude never won until LeBron came back. Didn't know how to win. Didn't know how to stay healthy back then either. If anyone really wants to pay attention to that, yeah, he have a fabulous series with LeBron. They both they both hit over 40 points a few times in those games, and yes, he made a huge shot. He did. It's one of the sexiest shots in NBA history.
Yeah.
Does that shot mean shit without LeBron's block?
Right. There's a lot of factors, man.
There's not a lot of factors. It was LeBron. That's the reason why we're going to go ahead and dick ride right now. LeBron makes winners. And now LeBron had to go down and learn how to win on a championship level. I will be the first to say that. He had to go down to Miami to learn how to do that. But God.
Well, even
you
before that,
you just got me all frazzled with Kyrie Irving and his flat earth shit, and the dude is psychotic.
Even before that, LeBron made teams very good that should not have been good at all. He's always brought the teams up, right? Kyrie does not do that. Matter of fact, when he went to Boston, terrible. They were worse.
Technically brought him down.
Yeah.
That being said, and that's one of my biggest arguments for him being one of the greatest, if not the greatest player of all time. LeBron, you could literally take him and put him on the worst team in the NBA. Worst team. Whichever one you want. Throughout almost his whole career after he started winning after his first few years. And they'd be a playoff contender every time. In fact, they would have decent championship odds.
Yeah.
You can't say that about every team or every player that's ever played the game of basketball. You can't say that. Because he makes everybody better around him. He takes garbage and turns them into winners.
Yeah, definitely. I wish Rio was here for this because he's not the biggest LeBron fan. He likes to talk shit. So.
Yeah. Who go ahead, go get Dirk.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, what about the Mavericks, baby?
But yeah, we could talk all day on that subject. By the way, the NBA is coming up here pretty soon too, so that's exciting. We're gonna have a lot of sports. Did you want to touch on baseball at all? Playoffs.
So the only thing I want to touch on that is that the AL East is pretty damn tight. Now the Blue Jays have won in their last 10 they're 6-4, but they still slipped out. Because I do believe if you're looking at it, I think the Yankees are like 7-3 in their last 10, and I think 8-2 for the Red Sox. So, God, that's a tight ass spot right there. I'm rooting for the Blue Jays. My boy Barrios went up there to pitch for him, and I'm definitely a Vlad Guerrero Jr. guy. I was a fan of his dad too. So I hope they're able to wiggle this out. I hate the Yankees, so I'd love to see them unseat them. But
Yeah, definitely agree. I'll throw in there too. Looking at the NL Central, there, St. Louis, 11 straight victories. Looks like they're in the wild card spot right now, which was not the case here just a few weeks back. So that's really cool to see. We talked about Toronto could be that hot team that makes a run. Maybe they, kind of thinking Fast and the Furious here. Maybe they hit the NOS a little bit early, and St. Louis is hitting it at just the right time here to get hot. So,
yeah. Yep. No, I could. I'm a little surprised by it. So, San Fran and Dodgers, of course, coming down to the last few days here. They're only 2 games apart. There's 10 games left. Now, what I was looking at a little earlier was
they're both in the playoffs, though.
They're both in the playoffs.
So, yeah.
So this is all about where they're going to get seeded. And the Dodgers have a little tough schedule here. So to touch a little bit more, to touch a little more on the AL East, the one thing the Blue Jays do have going for them, if this page will load up, I was looking at this a little earlier. Their last 10 games are they have a 4-game series they're about to start with the Twins, who I'm a Twinkies fan. I am for sure, but they're just not their year. So you have a 4-game series against the Twins. You have a 3-game series against New York, which kind of could tip the scales, a little bit. But then they finish off the season against the Baltimore Orioles, who also have over 100 losses already with 10 games to go. So the easier route, Blue Jays may eke this out, and I hope they do.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm not a Yankees fan either. I feel about them similar to how I feel about the Cowboys in the NFL. But definitely the schedule is in their favor, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's tough to be in that Dodgers and Giants division too. I mean, the Dodgers are 7-3 in the last 10, but the Giants are 8-2. So it's like, man, no matter what you do, they just are holding on to that edge. Seems like they're going to pull it out, but like you said, right around 10 games left.
That being said, kind of want to touch a little bit on the NFL here. We do have a couple intriguing games coming up, right? We have Washington at Buffalo. And I understand it's without Fitzmagic. It's supposed to be how many teams has he been on now? Fitzmagic, 10 or something?
Yeah, I think 10 is the
So
number.
this was supposed to be one of those get back at you games against Buffalo, but
yeah, unfortunately for Washington, this is one of those games I feel like you needed the Fitzmagic.
You needed a little bit.
I don't know if Heineke can put up the numbers that
Yeah.
the Bills will.
You needed some of that dum-dum,
Yeah.
We touched on Baltimore a little bit ago. I don't know how that spread is that way. It is at Detroit, I guess. Intriguing game, Indy, Tennessee. You do have the Chargers at Kansas City.
That should be a fun game to watch.
Think it'll be
Both teams coming off an L. So
at Kansas City. You think Kansas City gets right in that one?
yeah, I think they'll be fine. I think Tyreek Hill's going to have a huge game. It's rare that he gets shut out, but he got shut out last week.
Mm-hmm.
He's due for a bounce back. He'll have a big game. I think that the over-under is 54.5-ish. So I could see the over on that, to be honest with you. But
Okay. All right. Some more intriguing ones. There's some mid-afternoon games that we like, that I like. Tampa Bay at Los Angeles, at the Rams, which I talked about already a little bit, but God, that's gonna be a fun game to watch.
So fun. It's going to say a lot. I think this is really going to tell a lot about Stafford. This is his first real test, I think, of the season with the Rams. So it'll be huge.
And Tampa's too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
they played the Cowboys, but they played the Falcons. This is going to be their first one, and they're on the road at the Rams. And you are right. I mean, Stafford still getting his, trying to figure his stuff out too. And he's, but he's doing so damn good while he's figuring out. Like, I feel like there's I feel like we're nowhere close to seeing what could happen there, what could be.
Yep. A lot of that's play calling, right? They've got a great offensive mind over there.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I would say is if you have a Rams running back, I believe Henderson's hurt, right? So it's going to be the Sony show. I don't think I would start him against the Bucs.
No. You have Seattle at Minnesota. Minnesota is 0-2, but like we've talked about before, 2-0. All 2-0s aren't created equally. And can you say the same thing about 0-2s?
Yeah, definitely. The Vikings could easily be 2-0. We're not, right? We understand that, but we definitely should have at least won the game against Arizona. Cincy, the fumble hurt us at the end, right?
Yep.
We're at home finally. Seattle always plays us tough. For some reason, Russell Wilson is, he's that mobile quarterback. We've talked about that, right? We struggle against that. So I think it's going to be high scoring. I mean, the over-under here is 55, baby.
Oof.
So going to be a high-scoring game.
So defense optional?
Defense optional.
Yeah.
Start everybody that you have on these teams for fantasy.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big game.
That being said, at least they're playing. It feels like I don't have it right in front of me, but it feels like Minnesota always plays Seattle in Seattle. At least this is up at U.S. Bank Stadium. The first game back, first game that they've been able to see up there as fans. So that place is gonna be rocking. And then we have Green Bay at San Francisco for Sunday Night Football. Do you think A-Rod's back, or what are you thinking over there?
Man, I don't know. I know the stats look great for him last week, but it was against Detroit, right? And if you actually watched the game, I didn't think he looked that great. Like if I watched the game, I would totally guess his stats were different than how they ended up, right?
I felt like his throw, like watching it, I felt like some of his throws were off that were normally there, and
yeah, like the back shoulder stuff usually is his money, right?
Yeah,
And that wasn't there.
I don't know. And then I'm pretty sure there was one where I felt like he ate it. It's almost like he ate a sack. I don't know. It's just, his body language is still miserable.
Yeah,
San Fran isn't out of this, and I hate going this route because it just buys into you and Rio thinking that they're going to get like 17.5 wins in a 17-game season. So
pretty close. Might be 18. We'll see.
Yeah,
they're. I mean, it doesn't matter who they start as running back, right? They're going to be able to run the ball against the Packers. Mm-hmm. And oddly enough, did you know Deebo Samuel is the NFL leader in receiving yards so far this season? For a running-based team, that's pretty crazy to me.
That is. But Deebo is and has been a pretty damn good receiver. He's had a lot of bad luck with the injury bug in his career so far. He stays healthy. He's damn good. In fact, it's at the expense of Brandon Ayuk, who I liked, but if you use your brain a little bit and actually think about it, when he was getting all that play last year, Ayuk, he had nobody else. They had no one else to go to either. Kittle was out. Deebo was out. They lost so many weapons last year that. So maybe I should have assessed that a little closer and a little better, but.
Maybe. I mean, he's got a good connection with Garoppolo, it seems like. I do think Kittle's due for a decent game. Packers don't have a great defense against tight ends. Mm-hmm. Over under 49.5 is a surprise.
Good game or a ridiculous game? I think Kittle's due for a ridiculous game.
All right. We'll see. And then Monday Night Football. They always play on Monday night, even when they're not good teams like this year.
Yeah.
Eagles at Cowboys. Dallas is favored by 4. I could see this being a 1-point game, and I could see the Eagles beating the Cowboys. So
I could do. And this is partially Cowboy hate, so I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat it. Not going to try to say, oh, no, that is what I'm doing. What I am doing, though, is that Jalen Hurts and that offense against the Cowboys' shitty defense. And a little bit of positive stuff, like when they are getting after the quarterback, it doesn't matter because Jalen Hurts he has his legs, he has a special ability, and bare minimum, it'll be an entertaining game to watch. So, one of your one of your guys on Facebook was, I did not realize was a Eagles fan.
Yep, big time Eagles fan.
Yeah. So I don't know him. Let me make something clear that I beat the hell out of in one of our previous episodes. When I said the Philadelphia Eagles have the worst fan base in the National Football League, I'm going to 100% stick to that. But what needs to be more clear is that I'm talking about the in Philly, like in Philadelphia. Because I have some friends that are Philadelphia fans from like around here, you know, and they're not like that. I'm talking about the town of Philly. Just God, such pieces of shit, man.
Yep. Yep. Fuck you guys. Except for Eric. Love you. Shout out to Eric.
Right.
Well, okay. So what about this? Pollard, Zeke, you've got both on your team. You're playing decent run defense there with the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you starting?
Tony Pollard.
Thank you. Now, what if you drafted Zeke at the fifth pick in the draft, which was way too high? Third.
Was it the third?
I think you might be right.
I think it was the third.
The third, which was way too high.
Yeah.
But you almost have to start him, even though he's playing like shit, right?
Do you realize that Derrick Henry was still on the board at that time?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. If we went back, I can't remember. So
I think Henry went like 6.
Yeah. So you had Derrick Henry. Even if you wanted to take Devontae Adams, I'm not a wide receiver in the first round guy, but
yeah, Chubb.
And I think, Chubb. I would have taken Chubb over Zeke.
100%.
I would have reached up there for him. Absolutely.
Yep. Aaron Jones, right? You had.
I'm telling you, just like anyone in fantasy and the Dallas Cowboys themselves, you need to look. This may be the week to actually do it. Because old boy got a touchdown in 80 yards, right? 70, 80 yards. Trade that, man. Do yourself a favor. Cowboys, do yourself a favor. Tony Pollard has more than shown that he's a good running back. I'm not saying he's a star or anything like that, but he's better than Zeke. He's running behind the same offensive line as Zeke. It isn't like they bring in some all-pro lineman all of a sudden just when Tony Pollard gets out there. You know, I seen him crying about this, that, and the other about someone criticizing him, right? Criticizing him about his running yards, his rush attempts, blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, you guys don't see the other stuff. I'm blocking good, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Even when the coach is backing you up to, that is not why they paid you top 5 running back money.
Mm-hmm.
That is not why they paid you that. You're not hitting it like you should be hitting the hole. You're not seeing it the same.
I listened to the Fantasy Footballers podcast the other day. They like to bring up ridiculous stats like I've never heard of, right?
Yep.
So they actually talked about this stat that was average yards per touch. So whether it's rushing yards, receiving yards, whatever, when you get the ball, average yards per touch, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know who leads the entire NFL by a pretty wide margin in average yards per touch?
Derrick Henry? No.
No, believe it or not, we just talked about him.
Tony Pollard.
I believe it was 8.9 yards per touch. Needless to say, Zeke wasn't even close.
No?
So, no.
What?
No. So, I mean, that says a lot too, right? They're not looking for Zeke for receptions. They're not. He's out there a lot, but mostly because he's blocking.
Should Minnesota pay Alexander Madison top 3 running back money? Because that's about what Zeke is.
Oh, let's see. That's a fair comparison. Yeah, he needs to get paid. Pay the man.
Pay the man.
Let's go.
Get out of here. No, that. I'm just saying that they've made a lot of dumb moves in Dallas. They made some decent ones though.
They should have paid Dak before they paid Zeke. To be honest with you, Zeke should have been at the end of the fucking, because they paid Cooper. Then they paid Zeke. Then they finally paid Dak. They should have gone in a totally different order. Whatever. But anyway, that should be a fun game, regardless of how we feel about the Cowboys.
Yep.
They're a good offensive team, and oddly enough, lead the league, I believe, in turnovers this year too, even though they've got a shit defense. So they've gotten lucky. I don't expect that to keep up. Jalen Hurts is going to have a big game. Fun night on Monday Night Football. But I think for content, that pretty much wraps it up.
Yep. So we are going to go ahead, and we are at that time of the show here. And I think my man Danny actually has one to go ahead and relieve the pressure off of me. And I'm not talking about the pressure building up somewhere else. I'm talking about makes sense if you don't think about it. What do you have there, Danny? And I haven't heard this yet either.
Yeah, so a lot of my life I've been in sales, right? One form or another. A lot of like face-to-face sales stuff, whatever. Well, I was with the company, I don't know how long ago this would have been, 5 years ago, something like that. And every week we would do these I believe it was every week, we'd do these kind of sales review calls. And we'd say, okay, here's the volume that so-and-so produced. Great job last week, whatever. And there were some people that were consistently on those kind of leaderboards, if you will, because it's competitive sales is, like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, what's going on? Well, with this company, you could also see like what they were selling, for how much they were selling, things like that. And I noticed a couple of these people, they had a shit ton of volume, but they would sell it like below cost consistently. And I'm like, that's, way below what I would sell that for. Like what's going on? So I actually talked to the, we'll just call him my manager at that point. And I was like, hey, how do they get away with this? I mean, how does this work? How do we make money? And he said, and I quote, volume. So
are you kidding right now?
It makes sense.
So below cost.
Right. The volume
is
going to make up for that.
Oh my God. It makes sense if you don't think about it. So this is the reason why. I'm going to tell you right now. This is one of the many reasons why we're going to keep getting into this other part. This is exactly why you need to watch The Office. So the first thing I thought, you're going to get to an episode once you start watching this, you'll be like, God damn it, there it is. And that's exactly what you just said right there. And the fact that came out of a manager's mouth too, on top of that, yeah, that's what you're getting led by.
You got to love it.
And it makes sense if you don't think about it.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for tuning in today. A lot of fun games this weekend. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Definitely give us a follow on all the socials at 3Gig Sports. We're also available on essentially every podcast platform that you could think of. So share it, talk shit if you disagree, because we are never wrong. Just sometimes misinformed.
Rio, get better. Get your ass back over here. You got some whiskey bets, baby.
Let's go, baby. This is 3Gig Sports.
We out.